Class A All-Section. Christopher Ale, Clarkstown South. The senior captain was a Super 11 pick in the preseason and lived up to the hype. He caught 45 passes for 900 yards and 10 touchdowns, while also recording 3 interceptions and 68 tackles on defense. Ale was voted the best wide receiver in the league and is All-Section for the second time. Dion Brukai, Yorktown. Brukai is a 3-year starter and was voted captain for the Huskers, serving as a force on both sides of the offensive and defensive lines. Yorktown ran much of its offense behind the dynamic 6'3", 275-pounder, as he helped the running game go over 3,000 yards again this season. Stephen Carroll, Lakeland. The standout wrestler was the centerpiece on the offensive and defensive sides of the ball for the Hornets. In 10 games, the running back accounted for 6 touchdowns, while leading the team with 132 tackles, 34 solo, and 3 sacks with an interception. Ravi Das, Somers. The most electrifying player in Section 1, Das was unstoppable again this fall. The wideout helped Somers reach the state final again, where he hauled in 2 more touchdowns in a rout at the Dome. Das had 39 receptions for 785 yards in the season with 15 touchdowns, including 3 in the state semifinal and 2 more in the state championship. He also ran for 450 yards and 5 scores, helping Somers win the Class A state championship. Matt Fitzsimons, Somers. Go through the Section 1 history books and try and find a quarterback who won a state championship and put up the numbers Fitzsimons did along the way. It's never happened. The veteran QB surpassed 2,100 yards passing with 31 touchdowns, and he was off the charts in the postseason, throwing for 729 yards and 12 touchdowns in 3 state tournament games. He had 48 touchdown passes and just under 3,900 yards in 2 seasons as the varsity quarterback, posting a 25-1 combined record, capped by a state title. Craig Galea, John Jay Cross River. The senior signal caller made some eye-popping plays to mirror his impressive numbers. The 6'5" quarterback broke every school passing record, throwing over 2,600 yards and 30 touchdowns, both the highest in New York State. He was the LoHud Player of the Week 5 times this season and was MVP of the Senior Bowl. Dylan Haynes, Harrison. The senior two-way lineman has been the anchor on both sides of the ball for the Huskies. This fall, he guided the program back to prominence, earning the prestigious Chris Mello Award for the Rye Harrison game before leading the Huskies to a victory that day in their famed rivalry. Opening holes for one of the section's best offenses, Haynes was the league's Lineman of the Year. Michael Holder, Clarkstown South. The senior quarterback exploded this fall and took the Vikings offense with him. He threw for over 2,100 yards and connected on 24 touchdowns, while rushing for 4 more. He set the school's single-season passing record and went over 300 yards passing in a game 4 times and had 3 4-touchdown contests. Teddy Johnson, Pelham. The durable running back led the Pelicans' offense this season, gaining 778 yards and 9 touchdowns, averaging over 6 yards per carry. He also had 18 catches with 4 touchdowns, helping Pelham to a 6-1 regular season record and a berth and a home game in the Class A playoffs. Jake Kessner, Rye. The sophomore standout is a multi-sport star who came into his own on the football field this fall. The 6'4", 225-pounder was a reliable wide receiver and a force in the secondary, posting 29 tackles, 3 sacks, and an interception. With 2 years left, he'll be one of the section's best players down the road. Joey Koch, Mayapack. When Koch touched the football, opposing defensive coordinators held their breath. He put up 1,600 yards rushing with 22 touchdowns. He caught 3 touchdowns, and he returned 2 kickoffs for scores. And he posted 42 tackles and an interception on defense. Koch was picked as the Class A Co-Offensive Player of the Year to cap a stellar career at Mayapack. Chris McLaughlin, Harrison. The junior was among the most versatile backs in the section this season, accounting for over 1,100 all-purpose yards with 11 touchdowns. He was even better on defense, coming up with 5 interceptions, 8 pass breakups, and a fumble recovery. Justin Morales, Yorktown. The explosive back was a 2-year captain and a 3-year starter for the Huskers. He ran for over 1,300 yards and 13 touchdowns, while recording 50 tackles on defense and 3 interceptions to earn league most outstanding defensive back. Morales has committed to play football and lacrosse at Wesleyan University. Massimo Perello, Brewster. The senior quarterback burst onto the scene this year, emerging as one of the top dual-threat players at his position. Perello passed for 1,200 yards and 11 touchdowns, completing 64% of his throws. He ran for 490 yards and 12 scores, while also recording 40 tackles and 2 sacks on defense. Jake Polito, Somers. The most feared and physically imposing lineman in the section, Polito outmuscled everyone in front of him this season, guiding the Tuskers to a state championship in the process. The left tackle protected a quarterback who passed for over 2,000 yards and opened holes for a running game that ran for over 2,200 yards. He didn't miss a step in the state semis or finals, where he came back despite injury in the section championship game to help the Tuskers claim that state crown. Anthony Porco, Mahopac. The senior was at the end of the Mahopac defensive line, but he lived in the opposing backfields. The 6'4", 220-pounder led Pack with 63 tackles, 14 for loss, and 5 sacks. Mahopac also ran most of his offense behind Porco, who helped put up over 3,000 yards and reached the Class A playoffs. Tommy Richardson, Rye. Richardson stepped in as the featured back for the Garnets this season and thrived in that role. The 6', 180-pounder was far more rugged than his size as he powered his way to nearly 1,200 yards rushing and 13 touchdowns. Richardson highlighted his season with 222 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns in a win over Clarkstown South. Charlie Swarak, Rye. The junior lineman developed this season into one of the most reliable two-way players for the Garnets. He was terrific in all schemes on offense and became a force in the middle of the defensive line, recording a team-best 62 tackles with 4 sacks and 6 tackles for loss. Luke Savino, Somers. The best kicker and punter in Class A wasn't so bad as a running back the last 2 seasons either. First, the golden leg of Savino was 56 of 61 on PATs, 3 of 4 on field goals, had 47 touchbacks on kickoffs, and averaged 35 yards per punt. As a runner, he was a workhorse for the state champions, rushing for 1,044 yards and 13 touchdowns, highlighted by 4 touchdowns in the Section 1 final and 3 scores in the state championship. Christian Shapiro, John Jay Cross River. While his quarterback put up gaudy numbers as a passer, Shapiro did it as a runner. He put up nearly 1,700 yards of total offense while scoring 19 touchdowns, averaging 8 yards per carry. Shapiro ran for 806 yards and 12 touchdowns in a 3-game stretch in October to help Jay get to the playoffs and upset Clarkstown South in the first round. Logan Simon, Brewster. The senior standout sure knew how to dig in and muscle with the best lineman in the section. The 5'11", 280-pounder was a force, plowing through defenders at left tackle and helping the Bears become one of Class A's best offenses. He was just as good on the defensive side, recording 40 tackles, forcing 2 fumbles, and recovering 3 more. Dom Sperandio, Eastchester. The senior and veteran running back, Sperandio was a workhorse for the Eagles, rushing for 844 yards and 12 touchdowns. Sperandio was second on the team with 49 tackles on defense and recorded 4 interceptions. He also turned heads at the Senior Bowl, earning Best Offensive Player of the Game. Luke Green, Pelham. Some players make an impact that goes far beyond the numbers. Green did that in his career at Pelham, raising the program's profile and breaking records in the process. The 6'1", 240-pounder set a school record with 93 tackles, helping the Pelicans to the Class A playoffs for the second year in a row. He also overwhelmed teams as a blocker, as Pelham boasted one of the conference's best offenses. Green is one of the most highly recruited players in the region, including several Division I offers. And for it all, Green was selected the Class A Player of the Year.